Good evening, I am Ibrahim Sani and this is Market Talk. On today's show is Whittaker's Chocolate. J.H. Whittaker & Sons Limited is a confectionery manufacturer specializing in chocolate and based in Porirua, New Zealand. Whittaker's Chocolate entered the Malaysian retail market in 2014 with the entire Whittaker's Malaysia range certified halal by the Federation of Islamic Associations of New Zealand. The range covers a bunch of flavors widely available before, not available before, and of course, joining me in this company right now is Matt Whittaker, Whittaker's Chocolate's head of international market. Matt is the great-grandson of James Henry Whittaker, who founded the chocolatier. James Henry Whittaker started the business in Christchurch in 1896, and it was later moved to Wellington. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Ibrahim.
And of course, the discussion that we want to have revolves more than the chocolatier that you're representing. It, of course, involves the diplomatic ties between the two countries of Malaysia and New Zealand. We are celebrating our 60th diplomatic ties with these two nations. Can you elaborate a little bit about how far we have gone in terms of building a relationship between our two countries?
We are now, Malaysia and New Zealand are now the top 10 trading partners, so I think that's a really good indication of where the two countries are at, and it's great to celebrate the 60th anniversary with the Discover New Zealand activity at Pavilion.
Now, of course, let's talk a little bit about Discover New Zealand. This is an event that is currently happening in Pavilion, as you mentioned, and it will span over 3 or 4 days. What would be some of the targets that is aimed to be achieved at this event?
I think that the real objective of the event is to showcase New Zealand product and services to a broad base of Malaysian consumers.
Of course, New Zealand is geographically far away from the rest of the international markets. Yeah. But as your role, being the head of the international market of Whittaker's Chocolate, it has to be noted that Whittaker's Chocolate is really big in New Zealand. But for Malaysia, you guys entered the market only very recently. What would be the thought process in Whittaker's Chocolate trying to achieve new markets, for instance, in Malaysia? What would be some of the key things that would be indicative enough for you to enter a new market?
The key for us when we're identifying new markets is looking at the population base, looking at the chocolate category that exists in that market. Is there growth? Is there growth in the area that we participate in the premium sector of the market? They're all things that go into the decision-making process for us when we enter a new market.
The market share that you have in Indonesia is number 2, falling just behind Cadbury. But of course, in Malaysia, you are barely scratching the surface. Perhaps, are you going big in this country?
We're looking to focus on Malaysia and particularly Southeast Asia and Asia in general. We believe that market share, we can achieve market share growth in this market, and we've got some pretty good strategies to achieve that.
All right, let's iron out and listen out to some of the strategies.
Okay.
ASEAN as a market if ASEAN was one country, we are the 4th biggest country in the world. We have 600 million population. Direct competitors of yours, including Nestle and Monterrez, they are doubling down their bets. They're having R&D facilities in this part of the region. They are pursuing halal certifications from local bodies. So, for instance, in Malaysia, they're going for JAKIM. And they are raising money from the market. They are publicly listing their companies so that they can be better scrutinized by the various authorities. Basically, they are now trying to capture the market by storm. And they are indeed capturing the market by storm. Do you think that Whittaker's Chocolate is ready to go up against the big boys simply because the market share is just too huge to ignore?
Absolutely. We go up against them in other markets and compete very well against them. And I think our story is a story that can't be told by big multinationals. You know, we're 4th generation family owned, 121 years old this year. We're beans to bar, so we make chocolate from the raw cocoa bean right through to the finished product. And, you know, our quality is paramount.
Yeah. Let's talk about that process, because if indeed the value proposition is there on Whittaker's chocolate, it's this direct processing from the bean straight to the manufacturer. Can you elaborate a little bit more on this?
Absolutely. So we import raw cocoa from in our cases, Ghana, and we import it. We put it through the cleaning process, roasting, deshelling, grinding, and then we mix that processed liquor in with the sugar and famous New Zealand milk powder and other ingredients that go into our chocolate bars, such as the almond gold, Californian almonds, and because we take it from that very early stage, it means we can control the quality of each raw material, which is critical in making a really good quality chocolate bar. If you take pre-processed cocoa and add it to your ingredients, you don't know what's gone into that pre-processed cocoa, so you can't control it.
Okay, and do you think that this differentiator would be a key proposition for your company in trying to capture the market?
Absolutely, and I think when people try the product, they can tell, they can taste the quality.
Managing a family-owned business is an interesting story to tell, and of course, this is not a small to medium-sized enterprise. This is a mega conglomerate, if I may use that word, in terms of the revenue that you guys get. Would this mean that there would be some limitations in terms of growth because there is this inherent need to keep the business within the family?
It's certainly not a limiting factor at this stage. We have been around 121 years, and we always talk about 2096. So for us, it's about sustainable growth. And I think sustainable growth doesn't necessarily mean overextending yourself. And at the moment, we're happy with our approach to growth, and certainly don't need any help from external sources.
All right. Of course, you bear the title of Head of International Markets. Where can we find Whittaker's chocolate right now internationally?
So 21 countries. With a real focus on Southeast Asia, North Asia, North America. We launched Canada 2 years ago. Middle East, so UAE, Qatar, Bahrain. In particular, though, China is a really strong market for us, and now is number 3. And of course, New Zealand and Australia. So New Zealand's our biggest market, Australia is our second biggest, followed by China.
Matt, we'll take a short break, but when we come back, we'll discuss more about innovation in the chocolating business. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Market Talk. I'm your host, Ibrahim Sani. Today on the show, I have Matt Whittaker, Whittaker's Chocolate's Head of International Markets. Matt, before we left off, the conversation revolves around how big the Chinese market is. And of course, it is the third right now biggest for your company, just behind Australia and New Zealand, where I would probably call it your native markets. The business that you have right now, can it be classified as a premium kind of business because it targets more of the upper mass affluent and the high net worth individuals, that range, rather than a mass market business?
Absolutely. We position ourselves as mass premium. So at that premium end of the mass market, where there's still significant volume.
With this location in the structure of the retail business, where you would classify yourself as a mass premium, does this mean that the growth of the mass premium market in China is booming extensively and you want to have a slice of that pie?
Yeah, no, absolutely, because that's really what's driving the chocolate growth in China. Chocolate total was actually flat year on year, but premium chocolate is in significant growth, 20%.
Do you think that the need for you to innovate in this business is key in order for you to remain competitive?
It is key, but it's also key to understand what the flavour profiles of your market that you're entering, and so you can really put together your product portfolio to suit that market.
Let's talk more about the flavor profile that you speak of. What is this flavor profile? What goes into this thought process into trying to ascertain which market fits where?
For us, it's all about what we put into the chocolate, because the chocolate stays the same across all markets. We keep control of, a milk chocolate's the same in New Zealand as the same that's in China. It's the same as that's in Malaysia. So that part stays the same. It's what we put into the chocolate. So, for example, in Malaysia, our almond product is really, really popular because Malaysians love almonds and chocolate, and particularly our chocolate. In China, it's hazelnuts. In Australia, it's coconut. So it's all about what we include in our chocolate.
This R&D, if I may call it, do you do it, with a third-party partner, or do you carry out yourself?
It's all in-house.
Right, and with this, do you plan to introduce different product lines to try and see what works and what doesn't for the local markets that you're in? Yeah,
absolutely. We've got a really broad portfolio of products, so we can kind of pick and choose from our home base, our home market, what may work in certain markets. So an example of that is we had a New Zealand artisan product where we had oolong tea included in the dark chocolate in Malaysia.
The item that you used just now it was on sustainable growth. The fact that you're looking on a horizon of 2096, a 200 kind of year range. Does this mean that there is a need for you to diversify your product lines and move away from chocolate and move into other business of the confectionery business?
We very much need to focus on what we're good at, and what we're good at is making chocolate. There's plenty of growth in chocolate and plenty of markets to enter to sustain our growth. So at this stage, there's a lot of opportunity in chocolate.
Do you think that there is a need for you to go public, as in public listing the company?
At this stage, we're privately held, family owned, the third generation current ownership. We would like to keep it that way.
Do you think that this will limit the capital requirements for you to go big in other markets?
As I mentioned earlier, we're all about sustainable growth. So we don't necessarily want 50 or 60% market share in other markets, but we want to be important to our customers. So if that means we're an important player in the premium end of the mass market, then we're certainly happy with that.
All right, let's zoom out of the company itself and talk about the landscape of dieting and consumerism. What would be the key trends that you have observed in this business, and what has changed from 1896 until today of 2017? I
can't comment so much on pre-1982.
You do look like a young man, I can imagine. You don't look anywhere.
But we do have some history. I mean, I think portion control is certainly a trend to dark chocolate, so higher percentage dark chocolates in lots of markets. A trend towards premium. People want a small indulgence. They're willing to pay for a small indulgence.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that the need for people to choose a healthy diet that would shy away from buying products like yours?
I think there's always a place for responsible consumption of products like ours. It's a small treat. It's not intended to be a meal replacement, for example. So we certainly wouldn't see that our product should be consumed in a way that's going to affect your health.
Nestle and Mondelez, of course, while they provide chocolates, I don't think they do target the premium mass segment. And there's a reason for that, because perhaps the purchasing power, the pool of people that can buy in that segment is a little bit smaller than the mass market. Do you think that there is a need for you to now understand the consumerism market better, and that would mean that you would have to create product lines that would suit that mass market segment?
I think our positioning is correct for our business. So at the premium end, sure, there's not the same volume, but we're not a big multinational, so we don't need the same. We don't require the same volumes as our big competitors. So I think for our positioning our business at the moment, that's where we want to be.
Okay, we'll take a short break, but when we come back, we'll discuss a little bit more about the business of Whittaker's Chocolate. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Market Talk. I am your host, Ibrahim Sani. Today on the show, I have Matt Whittaker, the fourth generation founder of the business Whittaker's Chocolate, based in New Zealand. Of course, you hail from New Zealand. It's a far market, literally, from where we are right now. Do you think that there is a need for you to grow more in Southeast Asia right now?
Absolutely. The population base here and the trend towards premium chocolate means that there's a big opportunity for us in this market.
Of course, then the question now is, again, we were talking about trends just now, and halal is a big feature, at least in Malaysia. And of course, I understand that you're in some of the GCC markets as well. Do you think that there is an opportunity for you to build more on the premise of halal business?
I think halal is critical for this market, clearly, and we went through the process of putting the halal logo on back of pack when we entered the market. Is there more opportunity? I think, yeah, absolutely.
Who do you think, or who do you see as your competitor right now?
We don't like to talk about our competitors openly,
They're nasty, aren't they? Yeah.
But I think clearly Lindt is a competitor of ours, and that's our reference point in markets.
And do you think that the lineup that you have right now, the product lineup, the business strategies that you have put in place, and the value proposition that you have, which manages the entire supply chain of building the chocolate process, do you think that that is enough for you to overcome the competitors that you have identified?
I think, as I said before, it's a really unique story, our brand story, and I think that will stand us in good stead to compete against these big guys.
Of course, being in the business for over 100 years, what would be the trends going forward in this premium chocolate business?
Wow, well, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think dark is definitely a trend. I think innovation is more than a trend, but I think it's critical to our business driving growth, particularly in our home market, but also in international markets.
What kind of innovation can we expect? Or is it like a trade secret?
That's secret. I can give you an example of innovations in our own market that have been very successful. We started out this trend of collaborating with other brands, with other famous New Zealand brands. For example, we're running a limited edition product in Malaysia at the moment with a very famous drink called Lemon and Pyro, or LMP, and it's a combination. The product's a combination of their flavours and our chocolate, white chocolate, with popping candy. So when you eat it, it explodes in your mouth a little bit like drinking a carbonated drink. Okay,
and do you think that these collaborations, we'll see more of these collaborations going forward from the company?
Absolutely, we will.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking to you, Matt. I've been speaking to Matt Whittaker, Whittaker's Chocolates, Head of International Markets. That's it for this episode of Market Talk. Send us all your feedback on all our social media platform sites, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow us there at 501 Awani. And of course, you can listen to this interview on your podcast. Simply search for Astro Awani wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Ibrahim Sani. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.